Okay, so this is the requirement if you want to retake Chapter 2 test. So 0.8, that's the same thing as 8/10. And if you reduce that, 2 will go into both of those. 2 goes in there, 4, and 2 goes into 10, 5. 4/5. Number 2, 0.48, that's 48 over 100. It's 48 hundredths. And let's see, what will go into both of those? Well, we know 4 goes into both of those. We could use that. 4 goes into 48. 4 goes in there once. 4 goes into 8 twice. 4 goes into 100. 4 goes into 100 25 times. Now let's see, is there anything that goes into both 12 and 25? Let's see, 3 goes in there, but 3 does not go there. 4 goes in there, 4 does not go in there. The only one that goes into 25 is 5. So this is reduced. That's it. Okay, number 11, write each decimal as a percent. Okay, decimal to percent, D to P. That's 2 spaces going this direction. So I will go that direction 2 spaces. So it's 456 percent. I don't know why I put that bar there. Decimal to percent, that's 456%. Okay, on the next one, we need to take these fractions and put them in order from least to greatest. Least to greatest. Well, to do that, we have to find a common denominator. And in this case, it is 20. 20 is a common denominator. Okay, excuse me just for a second. Okay, well, I guess I'll just do it like this. Technical difficulty. So let's see, 5 goes into 24, so 3 times 4 is 12. 4 goes into 25, so 1 times 5 is 5. 2 goes into 10, so 1 times 10 is 10. See, all I'm doing is scaling it up, and the denominator has to be 20. We have to keep the denominator the same so we can compare them. All right, excuse me. And on this one here, 5 times 4 is 20, so 2 times 4 is 8. All we did is scale everything up so that it matches up with the denominator being 20. All right, now you can go ahead and see which one is the smallest and then the largest. Let's see, the smallest one would be this one. This would be your first smallest, the smallest. Then this is the second one. This would be the third. And this would be the largest. 12 over 20, this would be the largest. So in that order, 1/4, 2/5, 1/2, and 3/5. That would be the order that they would be in for largest, smallest to largest. Okay, on the other side, number 13, find the percent of each number. 9% of 600. A way that could always work is making it to a decimal. 9% is 0.09 times 600. This works every time. Or if the numbers are easy, 9% means 9 over 100. And that we want to know how much is that out of 600. Well, it's 100 times 6 is 600. I'm just going to scale it up. So 9 times 6 is 54. So the answer is 54. 9% of 600 is 54. Okay, same thing the next one. 28% of 70, that's 0.28 times 70. If you chose to do it this way, 28% equals something out of 70, you would have to scale this down. All right, so we would need to scale this down. And if we went by by 4s, because 4 goes into both of these. So if I scaled it down by 4, so if I put a, like this, let's see, 28 divided by 4 is 7. 100 divided by 4 is 25. Okay, so 7 over 25. Well, now all I need to do is scale up. So I'm scaling down and then scaling up. So 25, well, wait a minute, does that work out? Does 25 go into 70? Would that work out? So that really doesn't help us much, does it? Because 25 doesn't go into 70. What we need to do, we would need to make this so that, reduce it down so that we can get a number that does go into 70. You could make it down to 10 by reducing it, scaling it down by 10. And then 28, if you reduce this down to 10, that would be 2.8. Oh, brother, that's not really great, is it? So I say 10 times 7 is 70. Then I'd have 2.8 times 7 would give me the other number, 2.8. Well, heck, I might as well have done this. I might as well have just done this. But since I'm right here, 2.8 times 7. 7 times 8, 56. 7 times 2 is 14. 15, so that gives me 196. Wait, that can't be the answer. Oh, I moved the decimal over one space, and there's my answer, 19.6. Yeah, you know what? It probably would have been better just to go ahead and multiply. This works all the time. All the time. So don't be fooled into doing this unless it's very easy. Otherwise, do this method here. Okay, number 15. Again, you can always move the decimal over two spaces, percent to decimal, and multiply it. This way will work every time. If you choose the other method, 550 over 100, that's percent, and you want to know how much out of 22? Okay, we'd have to scale it down and then multiply it. So let's see, if I scale this down, I know 50 will go into both of these. 50 goes into here 11 times. 5 goes into 55 11 times. And there's a 0. All right, and then 50 goes into 100 twice. Now can you see that you'll take 2 times 11 gets 22. So now you're going to take 11 times 11, and that will give us, 11 times 11 is 121. And so that is our answer, 121. 550% of 22 is 121. Notice it's larger than 22. Look, it's more than 100%. It's much larger. Okay, so that is how we get the answer. Again, this would be the simplest method. Number 3, it says write the decimal as a mixed number in simplest form. Right now we know it's 10 and something. 10 and 4/10. So it's 10, and now we're going to make this 4/10. 4/10, that's what 0.4 is. 4/10, and 2 will go into both of those. 2 goes in there twice, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. So it's 2/5. That means the answer is 10 and 2/5. So leave the whole number alone. It's just the decimal part, make that to a fraction. And now we have a mixed number. Next, we write each percent, that's a percent, as a fraction in simplest form. So percent means out of 100. And let's see, what will go into both those? I know 5 will go into both of those. So I'm going to scale it down by 5. Let's see. 5 goes into 35 7 times. 5 goes into 100 20 times. So that's it. 7/20. Okay, the next one, 60%. That's the same as 60 over 100. And I know 20 will go into both of those. That's the largest number I can think of that will go into both of those. 20 goes into 60 3 times. 20 goes into 100 5 times. And that is reduced, simplified. Number 6, write the percent as a decimal. Well, all you have to do is just move the decimal over. If you remember, we have, for example, in the alphabet, A, B, C, D, P to Z. So if you want to go from a percent to a decimal, that's what we want to do, then you're going to have to go this way 2 spaces. Okay, well here's your decimal there, so I'm going to go this way 2 spaces. So the answer is 0.63. By the way, the other way to look at this is 63 over 100. 63% means over 100. And that's the same as 63 hundredths, 0.63. So it could be done either method. It's just that this one we learned to memorize. It's very simple just to move the decimal back and forth. Okay, number 7, write the decimal as a percent. Okay, well let's see. All we have to do, now there's a couple of ways of doing this. 0.45 is the same thing as 45 hundredths. Now wait a minute, anything over 100, that's the percent. So it's like 45%. All right, there is another way of doing this, and that's just moving the decimal over 2 spaces. And remember what I just was showing you. Let's say we go thinking of the alphabet, and notice we want to go from a decimal to a percent. Decimal to a percent, D to P. That means we're going to move the decimal over 2 spaces going that direction. So if we move it over 2 spaces going that direction, notice that it is 45%. All right, go to number 8. Okay, we can do it both ways. I'll just say that's 7/10. And so to make it over 100, you would have to multiply by 10. 7 times 10 is 70. The answer is 70%. Or we could have just moved the decimal over 2 spaces, and it's 70%. Okay, number 9, it says write the decimal as a write the percent. We have a percent. We want to make it into a decimal and as a mixed number or fraction in simplest form. So we have 2 things. First, let's make it into a decimal. Okay, so 8%, that's the same thing as saying I'll move the decimal over 2 spaces. Wait a minute, percent to decimal, do I go to the right or to the left? Let's see, think of the alphabet. Here's D and here's the letter P, and I want to go percent to decimal. I need to go this direction 2 spaces. So really I need to move it over 2 spaces. And if I do that, I'm going to end up with let's see, 1 space, 2 spaces. I will end up with 1, 2. Oh, I think I made a mistake there. Isn't it 0.08? 0.008? You know what? I can double check that just by making this into a fraction. And if I do that, so I'm going to do this 2 ways. 0.8% is the same thing as 0.8 over 100. Okay, well if I multiply it by 10, and I multiply this by 10, I'm going to scale it up. 0.8 times 10 is just 8. And 100 times 10 is 1,000. 8 thousandths. 8 thousandths is 0.008. Excuse me. So it comes out the same thing. The decimal is 0.008. It's easiest just to move it over 2 spaces. The next thing to do is to write this as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, so we have already 8 over 1,000. I've already done that. What will go into both 8 and 1,000? How about 4? Does 4 go into both of those? 4 will go into this twice, and 4 will go into 1,000. Well, let's break it up. 4 will go into 100 25 times, so then just add a 0. Oh, hey, wait a minute. That can be broken down further. Okay, so we already divided by 4. Okay, we're going to have to scale it down even more. So we're going to have to use 2, because 2 goes into both of those. So if I do that, 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 250, 125 times. So your answer is, we have 2 answers. One, the decimal is 0.008, and the fraction is 1 over 125. Okay, this now I probably don't need to explain as much. I'm just going to move it's a percent to a decimal. I'm going to go this direction 2 spaces. So that's point. Let's see, I had to add a 0, 0, 0, 2. That is our decimal. All I did is move it over 2 spaces. So there's 1, 2, 3 zeros and a 2. Okay, now let's go ahead and make that into a fraction. That's one of our answers. Now, so let's see, that's 10, 100, 1,000, 10 thousandths. So it's 2 over 10 thousandths. So what would that be if I reduce that? Well, let's break it up. Here I have a 10. And then I have 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. So I know that 2, I'll break it up by 2. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 10 5 times. And then there's 3 zeros. So there is your fraction. So there's our fraction. And here's our decimal. Number 16, write a proportion to solve the problem. So we have 13 is, see how it says 13 is? That's like equals. 13 equals 26%. That's 26 over 100. And so we just need to know this number. That's what we're looking for, this number here. Well, can you see that I can divide this by 2, or 13 times 2 is 26. Something times 2 is 100. 50. 50 is our answer. Next one's the same type of problem. It says 10 equals 40% of some number. Okay, so it looks like we had to multiply by 4. 10 times 4 is 40. Something times 4 is 100. Or you can go backwards. 40 divided by 4 is 10. 100 divided by 4 is 25. Next one, some number, I don't know what this number is 15% of 40. Out of 40. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to go from 100 to 40? Is it possible we could scale it down? I could scale it down by 5s. So 5 goes into 100, 20, and 5 goes into 15, 3. Okay, now do you see how I can go from 20 to 40? I would just multiply by 2. So you have to multiply this by 2. And that would make it 6. So 6 out of 40 is the same as 15 out of 100. It's also the same as 3 out of 20. Okay, number 19, we need to replace each blank with either less than, greater than, or an equal to make it true. One's a percent, one's a decimal. How about if we just make them both into decimals? That would be easy to compare. 26%, if I move the decimal over twice, it's 0.26. And this one is 0.3. So 0.26, well, that is smaller That is smaller than 0.3. See if I put a 0 there, see how it's 0.30, 0.26? The answer is less than. Okay, on number 20, if I make them into decimals, this one is 0.9. Excuse me, 0.9. And 9%, if I move the decimal over 2 spaces, 1, 2, it'll be 0.09. So you have 0.9, that's like 0.90, and 0.09. Well, 0.90 is more than 0.09. This is like 9 hundredths, 90 hundredths, and this is like 9 hundredths. More than is a correct answer.